Who tells a boy who he is when the mirror of a father isn't there? In millions of homes, the evening gets quiet at 7 p.m. Homework done, dishes drying, notifications blinking, and a boy is left to guess at his own reflection. Is strength the loudest voice in the room, or the steady hand that builds and heals? Psychologist Joseph Nicolosi called this question the core of affirmative masculinity, a secure, pro-social identity that says, "I'm enough and I'm responsible." If that sentence feels distant in your house, you're not alone. Have you ever watched a son overperform for applause, freeze under small pressure, or retreat into a screen because the digital world offers quick points and no awkward eye contact? Stay with me, because what we're about to unpack may reframe the way you see courage, competence, and belonging. Our aim tonight is simple: safeguard a boy's self-image in a fatherless context without shame, politics, or magic tricks. Just the honest tools of identification, mentorship, and attachment repair. You'll hear why the absence of a daily father doesn't have to become the absence of a father-son bond, and how a trusted mentor, a clear code of honor, and hands-on wins can knit a sturdy sense of self where comparison and fear once lived. Maybe you felt this in your own story, performing harder, hiding longer, hoping someone would say, "You're one of us." Drop that memory in your mind's pocket as we go. The pattern matters. We're going to translate Nicolosi's insights into steps you can actually use. Small rites of passage that anchor dignity, skill ladders that convert anxiety into mastery, and language you can speak at the dinner table tonight. No lectures, no buzzwords, just the chemistry of praise delivered eye to eye, the calm of boundaries that reduce noise, and the real-world practice that screens can't simulate. What you discover next might surprise you, not because it's complicated, but because it's human. A boy doesn't need a stadium to become a man. He needs a circle that reflects him truly and calls him upward. Now imagine the moment a boy finally hears it. "I'm here. You're enough. Let's build." That's where we're heading. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. If some part of this has brushed against your own story, a boy overperforming for applause, a quiet retreat behind a glowing screen, name it so it doesn't vanish. Drop a single line in the comments that starts with, "I see the boy when," and finish the sentence with your moment. Your words become a handrail for the next parent who stumbles in here at midnight, wondering how to begin. When you tap like, it tells the platform this conversation is worth surfacing to families who need a map. When you subscribe, it keeps these safeguard tools arriving where you can actually use them, instead of getting buried under noise. None of that is vanity. It's how we turn insight into a living circle of help. Take a breath. Hold that image of the boy hearing, "You're enough," and keep it close. We're about to turn that sentence into something you can do tonight, in your own house, with your own hands. Here's what Nicolosi meant by affirmative masculinity. Not a clenched jaw, not swagger, not dominance dressed up as confidence, but a steady inner sentence. "I have strength for good, and I'm responsible for it." It's pro-social, not performative, quiet enough to listen, firm enough to protect. And it doesn't appear by accident. In his clinical frame, 4 forces braid together to build a boy's self-image: identification, competence, courage, and belonging. Identification is the mirror. Some trustworthy man looks him in the eye and says, "You're with us." Competence is the mastery loop. Hands learn, mistakes get repurposed, dignity sticks. Courage is graded exposure to fear. The heart pounds, the boy tries anyway, and the nervous system discovers it can come back to calm. Belonging is the circle. Men who expect honor, forgive failure, and keep showing up. When those 4 run in parallel, the boy's internal narrator changes from "prove yourself" to own yourself. That is the safeguard we're after. Why underline this in fatherless homes? Because the daily implicit lesson many boys receive is simply absence. The brain still writes a story in that empty space, and often it's the harsh one. If he didn't stay, maybe I'm not worth staying for. Nicolosi argued that without deliberate identification, a boy will borrow identity from whoever hands him a chpos topotasomon, quick costume, peers, influencers, even algorithms that reward shock over character. Attachment theory predicts the same drift. Without a stable male bond, the nervous system tends to over-index on either fight, aggression, or fawn, people-pleasing. Affirmative masculinity is the third path, a regulated stance that keeps strength and empathy yoked together. Think of identification first. A mentor's sentence, "I see you. Here's why you matter," hits neurochemistry the way a warm hand steadies a bosiaba. Shaking knee. Oxytocin rises, cortisol drops, and the boy's polyvagal system reads safety in a real human face. You don't need a stadium speech. You need reliable presence. In practical terms, that might be a weekly breakfast with a coach, uncle, neighbor, or vetted community leader who knows one specific detail about the boy's life each time they meet. Specificity signals I actually see you, which is how self-image migrates from fantasy to fact. Competence gives that mirror weight. Executive. Function grows when hands solve problems in sequence. Diagnose, plan, act, review. Fix a bike, wire a lamp, cook a meal without burning the onions. Each cycle drops a bead of proof into the ledger. I can. In cognitive behavioral language, you're replacing catastrophic predictions with mastery evidence, which tamps down anxiety far better than pep talks. The dopamine here isn't just a buzz, it's a receipt. Your brain pays attention to what you can do again. Courage sits between fear and skill like at a hinge. Graded challenge means you don't toss a boy off the deep end. You invite him to the cold water inch by inch, celebrating regulation more than victory. We'll breathe together, then try. That script rewires the amygdala's hair trigger. He learns that arousal is a wave, not a verdict, and that he can surf it back to shore. Over time, a pattern emerges: risk, recover, repeat. That's resilience without bravado. Belonging locks the gains. A simple code of honor, short, memorable, lived out by men he respects, becomes the social container where identity matures. We tell the truth. We carry our share. We protect the smaller. When the circle keeps the code, the boy learns virtue by osmosis. When someone breaks it and owns the repair, he learns mercy without losing standards. Belonging is where rough edges get sanded safely. Now I want to go even deeper into this, beneath slogans, into the mechanics of how a home can simulate the missing mirror. In practice, that means building a small board of men around a boy, 2 to 3 vetted adults with different strengths, coordinated by the caregiving parent, each offering a predictable rhythm, skill, story, stretch. It means designing a competence ladder that starts where he is and rises one rung at a time. It means courage reps that are measurable. Read a paragraph aloud at dinner, ask the librarian a question, shake the coach's hand and state one goal. And debriefed afterwards so growth mindset language replaces self-critique. And it means tending the belonging circle so it stays porous to new mentors, but firm against chaos. No mixed signals, no men who model strength without responsibility. None of this requires labels or culture war vocabulary. We are talking about self-image and resilience, not politics. The research terms you'll hear, mirror neurons, neuroplasticity, sleep hygiene, proprioception, are just the lab's way of describing the ancient work families and mentors have always done. Reflect a boy, truly. Challenge him fairly. Include him consistently. The safeguard mission is to compress those essentials into a home routine, sturdy enough to hold when life tilts. If a single line here put words to something you've seen, a place where identification, competence, courage, or belonging is thin, leave a note that starts with "where my mirror cracks" and name it in one sentence. That simple clarity becomes the doorway for what we build next. Shame is the first wound, and it rarely walks in, shouting. It whispers in the pause after a mistake. I'm not enough. I'm the mistake. In fatherless homes, the whisper can become a soundtrack because absence leaves room for the harshest narrator. Your attention is valuable here. If you'd like, you can even jot this down so you won't forget. Shame distorts the inner compass by turning direction into defect. When a boy believes he is the problem, he stops experimenting, stops risking, stops asking. Biology cooperates with the lie. Cortisol climbs, breath shortens. The polyvagal system reads, "Threat where there is only challenge." The safeguard counter is identification inside structure, a predictable, eye-level ritual in which a trusted man names real qualities with precision. I watched you steady your hands when the screw wouldn't catch. That's perseverance. Specific praise remaps self-image from vague doubt to tangible proof. Add a 2-minute grounding, feet on floor, long exhale, and shame's storm loses voltage without any sermon. Performance hunger is the second wound. If shame says, "I'm not enough," performance hunger replies, "Maybe I will be, once I win." Worth equals achievement. Silence follows second place. The compass spins toward scoreboards and away from character, which means the boy must always chase new metrics to feel intact. Neurochemically, it's a dopamine debt loop. Brief spikes from applause, then a crash that demands a bigger crowd. The safeguard antidote is a competence ladder with after-action review. Choose a skill: bike repair, omelet, jump rope, and break it into rungs he can climb weekly. Each rung ends with 2 questions. What worked? What do I try next? That simple debrief shifts the nervous system from evaluation to learning. Process praise, you held form when tired, replaces outcome worship. Over time, the ledger changes. He stops borrowing confidence from trophies and starts carrying receipts from practice. Peer over-identification is the third wound. Without a steady male mirror, a SUF, boy turns to the nearest faces and molds himself to fit. Approval feels like oxygen, so he'll trade almost anything to breathe: style, slang, even his limits. This distorts the compass by replacing north with whoever leads the moment. The safeguard counter is belonging that outlasts applause. A small, vetted circle of men, coach, uncle, neighbor, who keep a simple code of honor and invite the boy to keep it with them. Belonging is different from popularity. One asks, "Who likes me now?" The other asks, "Whose standards am I living with?" Script 1, opt-out sentence for pressure moments. I don't do that. I've got people counting on me. And rehearse it in calm times. Linguists call this a protective utterance, a line compact enough to deploy under stress, strong enough to anchor identity when the room tilts. Digital substitution is the fourth wound. Likes replace eye contact, streaks replace handshakes, and a boy's limbic system, evolved for faces at conversational distance, tries to read safety from metrics. It can't. The result is a strange dizziness, hyper-connected and undernourished, always pinged, rarely held. Sleep phrase, attention splinters, comparison colonizes quiet. The safeguard answer isn't a sledgehammer to the phone. It's a choreography that gives biology what algorithms never will. Set a daily digital sunset, devices in a hallway dock 30 minutes before bed, and pair it with analog novelty. A card trick, a walk under streetlights, a pan of noisy popcorn. These: tactile, Low-stakes frictions train executive function and restore circadian rhythm. Then swap passive scrolling for active voice. One call to a mentor beats 50 silent views. In nervous system terms, oxytocin returns, and the amygdala gets proof that people are safer than numbers. Notice how the 4 wounds braid if left alone. Shame drives performance hunger, which seeks peer approval, which the feed can simulate endlessly, which deepens shame when the feed goes quiet. Safeguard cuts the loop. At every splice, identification answers shame, competence answers performance hunger, belonging answers peer over-identification, and embodied routines answer digital substitution. Layer them in a home that privileges rhythm over drama, a standing breakfast with a mentor, a weekly skill rung, a practiced opt-out line, a nightly doc. None requires a speech. All require presence. There's a fear trigger hiding here that's worth naming. If these wounds set early, they can calcify into a man's private story for decades. That's exactly why structure plus attachment repair matters now. Think of it as orthopedic work for the soul. Set the bone straight, hold it long enough for tissue to weave, then load it gradually until it's stronger than before the break. You'll feel the shift when a boy stops asking, "Did I impress you?" and starts saying, "Watch what I can build." You'll see it when group chat no longer dictates Friday plans, because he already has a standing appointment to teach a younger kid a skill he just learned himself. The compass begins to hold true even when the weather changes. Let's put a pin in one image you can carry forward. A kitchen timer ticking for 10 quiet minutes after the doc, a notebook open, a mentor's line written at the top, "I saw you steady your hands," and beneath it, the boy's own next rung. It's small, almost unimpressive, and it's exactly how resilience grows. If one of these wounds sounded familiar in your home, name it in the comments with compass reset, shame, performance, peers, digital, or write stitching the mirror if you've begun your own repair. Your line may be the signal another parent is waiting for, and from here we can shape the pieces into daily moves that actually hold. Your attention is crucial here. It's the hinge that decides whether this stays an inspiring idea or becomes muscle memory in your house. If you lean in for the next few minutes, you'll leave with a blueprint you can run tonight. Let's thread. Safeguard through the 4 pillars so they stop sounding like virtues on a poster and start acting like levers you can pull. Identification comes first because a boy cannot steer without a mirror. Picture a weekly mentor breakfast, same booth, same pancakes, same sentence delivered eye to eye. "You're one of us, and here's what I noticed this week." Specificity is the secret spice. You steadied your grip when the jar wouldn't open, travels farther in the nervous system than "good job." Oxytocin lifts, cortisol eases, and the polyvagal network reads safety in a living face. Identification under safeguard means predictable presence plus precise praise. It's attachment repair in plain clothes. Competence locks that mirror to something solid. Hands teach the prefrontal cortex what pep talks never will. A safeguard skill ladder breaks mastery into rungs. Fix a bike chain, sand a plank, scramble eggs without burning them. Each rung ends with a tiny after-action review. What worked? What to? Try next. So executive function gets reps. Neuroplasticity loves repetition with feedback. Dopamine shifts from the gamble of applause to the receipt of progress. And the world conspires to help you if you notice it. The smell of wood dust, the click of a chain catching, the sizzle when butter meets a hot pan. Sensory detail roots identity in reality. A boy who can diagnose a wobble, select the right hex key, and test his repair doesn't need a leaderboard to know he's growing. He can feel it in his palms. Courage is the hinge between fear and skill. and Safeguard treats it like physical therapy, not a stunt show. Graded exposure keeps the amygdala from hijacking the lesson. Start small. A cold water splash to the wrists, a paragraph read aloud at dinner, a timed sprint around the block with a parent pacing the breath count, 4 in, 6 out, until calm returns. The aim isn't bravado, it's regulation. Courage reps teach the body, not just the mind, that arousal rises and falls and you can ride the wave back to shore. Over time, the story changes from I panic, I fail, to I surge, I recover. That's resilience without chest thumping, and it generalizes. A boy who can steady his breath under a stopwatch can steady his voice under social pressure. Belonging turns isolated victories into a durable identity. Build a small circle of good men, coach, uncle, teacher, neighbor, who keep a simple code of honor and invite the boy to keep it with them. Make the code memorable and measurable. We tell the truth. We carry our share. We protect the smaller. When the circle lives the code in front of him and owns it when they miss, he learns integrity by osmosis and mercy without moral fog. Social psychologists call this identity-congruent behavior. Families call it a backbone. Under Safeguard, belonging isn't crowds and hype, it's continuity. Same faces, same standards, enough warmth to risk failing in public, and enough firmness to try again. Now weave the 4 into one rhythm. Monday holds identification, a breakfast booth, and a sentence that lands. Midweek belongs to competence, a 20-minute skill rung that ends with a laugh about what went sideways. Weekend morning hosts a courage rep when the stakes are low. And at least twice a month, the belonging circle gathers around something tangible. A service hour cleaning a park, a backyard fire where each man names one strength he saw, layer in sleep hygiene and digital boundaries. So biology doesn't fight you. Devices docked. Before bed, morning sunlight on the retina to steady circadian rhythm. Protein with breakfast to calm the mid-morning crash. These are not lifestyle aesthetics. They're the scaffolding that keeps identity work from collapsing under fatigue. You'll know Safeguard is taking root when the boy starts volunteering micro-evidence unprompted. I tightened the hinge. I was nervous, then my breath caught up. I told Josh I couldn't. I had people counting on me. Those lines are small, almost boring, and they're gold. They mean the compass is stabilizing. And if a setback hits, it will. The structure holds. Identification says, I see you. Competence says, let's fix what we can touch. Courage says, ride the surge. Belonging says, stand with us. 4 voices, 1 chorus. Your attention is crucial here. It's absolutely essential. Because the difference between a nice idea and a new baseline is usually a calendar. If you sketch even a rough rhythm, who meets him, what he's learning, when he stretches, where his circle gathers, the brain stops guessing and starts rehearsing. Identity is rehearsal. Keep the reps small, repeatable, and human. When he watches you keep the rhythm even on imperfect days, the lesson doubles. This is who we are, even when it's noisy. If one pillar rose up as the gap you most want to close, name it in the comments with claiming, identification, competence, courage, belonging, or write 4 pillars in motion. Your line might be the nudge another. Parent needs to mark their first square on the calendar. This point is very important for you to grasp how change actually happens. Because if you catch it, the next 7 days can rewrite a boy's inner narration. We're not building a spectacle. We're building a rhythm. Day 1 begins with a mentor match and a short, Why You Matter letter. Keep it plain and eye level. A trustworthy man meets him for breakfast, calls him by name, and hands over a note that lists 2 real observations. One about character, one about effort. That little paper is not stationary. It's attachment repair. Oxytocin rises, vagal tone steadies, and the limbic system gets proof that an adult male sees him clearly. Read it together. Fold it. Pocket it. The safeguard starts here. Day 2 is competence at level 1. 20 focused minutes, not a marathon. Pick a single tool or skill and keep the loop tight. Diagnose, act, review. Tighten a loose hinge, make an omelet, restring a guitar. Executive function loves. Sequence. Neuroplasticity loves repetition with feedback. End with one question he answers aloud. What worked today? Then one next step. What will I try tomorrow? That spoken debrief shifts the brain from evaluation to learning. Sensory detail becomes the teacher. Heat, weight, texture, anchoring self-respect where likes and metrics can't reach. Day 3 is a courage rep, small and public enough to raise the heart rate, safe enough to succeed or fail without shame. Read a paragraph aloud at dinner. Ask a librarian where the history section moved. Run a timed sprint while a mentor paces the breath. 4 in, 6 out, twice. The point is not bravado. It's regulation. He discovers the surge doesn't define him. It passes, and he can ride it back to baseline. When you debrief, avoid pep talk foam. Ask, where did your body settle? He'll start to notice his own resilience in motion. Day 4 is belonging on purpose, a meal with 2 men who keep a simple code of honor. Nothing grand? Burgers, chili, pasta. Each man names one strength he saw that week, concrete and brief. You kept your cool when the egg stuck. You shook coach's hand and said your goal. This is identity by osmosis. The circle doesn't vote on his worth. It reflects it and aims it. Predictable faces, stable standards, warm accountability. That's the architecture where masculine identity matures without noise. Day 5 is a service hour that moves worth beyond the mirror. Clean a widow's porch. Fix a neighbor's bike. Stack chairs after a community event. Neuroscience calls the lift helpers high. Dopamine synced with serotonin. But he'll just call it feeling useful. Humility arrives not as humiliation, but as proportion. Strength exists to serve. When a boy sees his hands solve a stranger's problem, the inner compass shifts from prove me to deploy me. That change lingers longer than any trophy. Day 6 is digital hygiene that protects biology instead of punishing behavior. Phones sleep outside. The bedroom. That's the rule, and the hallway dock is neutral ground. 30 minutes before lights out, the house enters a digital sunset. Dim lamps, slow voices, maybe a kettle. Print one photo of a real win from the week and tape it where he'll see it in the morning. Circadian rhythm resets, melatonin and sleep architecture do quiet work awards never will. The paper photo is a low-tech anchor for a high-noise world. Day 7 is a micro-rite of passage, simple and memorable. Present a small ETH token, a coin, patch, or bracelet, tied to the circle's code of honor. Say the words that staple meaning to the object. We tell the truth. We carry our share. We protect the smaller. Shake his hand and hold eye contact 1 beat longer than usual. This is not cosplay. It's a neural bookmark. Later, when life jolts him, that token becomes a pocket-sized compass he can press between finger and thumb and remember where north is. This point is very important for you to be aware of how things actually happen. None of these days needs perfection, only continuity. If day 3 flops, day 4 still shows up. If the omelet burns, the review still happens. Identity doesn't grow by viral moments. It grows by grooves carved in ordinary time. Stack the days in a calendar so the nervous system can trust the beat. Identification, competence, courage, belonging, service, sleep, symbol. That is safeguard as a lived cadence, not a slogan. Carry one picture forward, a kitchen table at dusk, a folded letter, in a pocket, a hinge that doesn't squeak anymore. Two men laughing about chili, muddy shoes at the door from someone else's yard. A phone asleep in the hall, a small coin warming in a small hand. These aren't props, they're receipts. When stacked, they tell a boy the truth he needed from a father. You are seen, you are able, you are brave, you are ours. If you're ready to run it, mark the comments with 7 days, 1 mirror. If you're starting smaller, write, day 1 is on. Either way, the groove begins when the first minute lands on the calendar, and from there, we'll shape it into a weekly loop that holds when life gets loud. A mother's superpower in a fatherless home is not doing everything. It's directing energy so the boy's identity grows outward instead of curling back into her for oxygen. Attachment theory calls mom the secure base. But secure doesn't mean fused. It means calm eyes, steady breath, and a coaching stance that says, you're safe and you're capable. Practice? That stance sounds like short, repeatable scripts that cue independence and invite male mentorship without blame. Ask Coach Dan first. That's a dad question. Let's invite your mentor. I believe you can. Each line is a gentle nudge from co-regulation to self-regulation. Mom lowers the emotional elevator to the ground floor, then steps aside so he can press the next button. This matters because over-rescuing feels like love in the moment and like doubt in the nervous system. When a boy never reaches for his own competence, cortisol and second-guessing fill the space where mastery should live. Boundaries, then, are not walls against him. They're bridges to other men who can carry the identification load. Think in terms of strategic handoffs. Mom spots the need, names it without drama, and passes the ball to a vetted man who anchors one pillar: identification, competence, courage, or belonging. I heard the bike chain skipped. Text Mr. Ruiz and ask which hex key you'll tile. Need? Then show me what you learned. The message rides under the task. Men you trust are within reach, and so is your own skill. Build a simple board of men, 3 adults with distinct strengths and clear availability. Maybe a neighbor who knows tools, a teacher who tells good failure to wisdom stories, and a coach who runs fair challenges. Set a cadence instead of chasing crises. Second Tuesdays for skill, Thursdays for a short call to review a goal. One Sunday meal each month where the code of honor is spoken out loud. Truth, share the load, protect the smaller. Family systems research shows that predictability is the quiet twin of safety. When a boy can anticipate who shows up and what happens, his amygdala stands down and executive function stands up. He hears the same sentence from different mouths. You're one of us. And the choir effect does what a solo never could. Boundaries without blame also means language that honors dad's absence without freezing time there. We don't mythologize, we don't attack, and we don't hand the boy a lifelong grievance as a personality. We speak reality and direction in the same breath. Your father isn't here day to day. That's true, and you are not unfinished because of it. Here's your circle. Here's your next rung. Cognitive behavioral therapy would call that reframing. The body reads it as relief. Shame dissipates when responsibility has somewhere to go. Notice how the everyday scripts scaffold bigger moves. Ask Coach Dan first becomes schedule the call yourself. That's a dad question. Let's invite your mentor becomes open your notebook and list 2 options before you ask. I believe you can becomes show me the plan you believe in. Each step subtly transfers the locus of control. Over months, the mother's voice becomes the launch pad, not the landing zone. And the paradox appears. When fusion recedes, affection deepens. Hugs after hard things feel different than hugs that prevent them. One says you're breakable, the other says you're becoming. Let me open a door you might not have considered. Mothers often mediate the tone of the male circle. A single text, "Thanks for naming his effort, not the outcome," teaches a mentor to praise process. A quick voice note, "He'll need a 1-minute pause if he chokes on the reading," equips the coach to model regulation. This is systems design, not micromanagement. You're widening love, not replacing it. If that picture of nurture without fusion rings true in your bones, or reveals a place you'd like to adjust, drop a line below that begins with widening the circle, or boundaries, not blame. Your sentence might be the hinge another parent needs before we lock this rhythm into daily moves that hold when life gets loud. Picture the after image we've been building toward. A boy meets a mentor's eyes and hears, "I'm here. You're enough. Let's build." That's the sound of a fracture turning into a framework. Without safeguard, every generation inherits the last crack. With safeguard, the same line becomes the place we reinforce and grow stronger. If this conversation gave you something you can use, tap like so this light reaches the next family that needs it. And if you want the next practical steps to land right where you'll see them, hit subscribe. We'll keep adding bricks together. Let me know you made it to the end by writing "Raising with Safeguard" in the comments and, if you want, the one moment that hit home for you. Your line might be, "The map another parent needed tonight." There's a video right here that complements this. Click it and keep going with me there.